Have you ever worked with someone so toxic that it started to change your health? For 10 years, I tried to survive a toxic workplace, smiling through the pain, pretending everything was fine, until my body finally said enough. From sudden chest pains to swollen fingers and terrifying nightmares, the workplace stress was literally making me sick. Today, I'm sharing the story my doctor couldn't believe and the warning signs I wish I had noticed sooner. If you've ever wondered whether that toxic coworker is actually harming more than just your mood, this video might be the wake-up call you need. I got into my corporate job that I still have when I was 27. I am now 46. So it is nearing my 2 decades of working in the same firm for almost 2 decades. But the job that I did was not something that I wanted to do. I like teaching. I like teaching English, to be exact. And I like spending time with outside. And before I took my corporate job, I was working on the radio. I was a speaker. So to go from the freedom of being able to, design my own work time and my own work, and being free regarding what I am working on, going to something like sitting in an office for 8 hours and people telling you what to do, and you stare at the screen all day, and that really was not the career path that I had in mind. However, I endured it because my boss was a really great woman. She was like a mother to me, let's say. She pushed me on. She said that I have potential, and she said that I will be a great boss someday. And fast forward, let's say 9 years later, and my IVF problems, I now returned from, let's say, 4 years of maternity leave. I was back at work for, let's say, 6 months before I went to my sick leave again. And then on my maternity leave, when I was pregnant and when I had my baby, I returned to my same job, to the same workplace, but to a different boss. Now, my boss was my former colleague who we really got along very well, but who was not up to the job. She was a complete opposite of our former boss, who was now promoted. And it was just me and my former colleague and another colleague that I'd never saw before. And for 10 years, it was developing gradually, that it was so subtle that I never noticed it. But there were these hints of me being incapable. There were these hints of, why do I have to ask so many questions? Why can't I decide anything on my own? There were these looks, there are really subtle looks, but if you start paying attention to them, you notice them more frequently. And then there were emails telling me what I should do, and that I didn't handle something correctly. And coming back from a place of, you are really capable and you're going to run the department someday, back after 4 years, I admit that I have lost some of the knowledge. After 4 years, to being completely incompetent and having to ask everything because nothing that I decided was ever good enough, well, it took its toll. And it started with the nightmares. But I didn't really pay any attention to the nightmares because I really haven't slept well ever since I started this job, because I was not happy with my current, with my profession. But after years of being treated like I'm incompetent and not willing to adjust or to, to put into work any of the, you know, ideas that I had that would basically make all of our lives better, that would make the procedure better. Nothing was ever confirmed and everything was ignored. So let's say 3 years ago, my the situation got so bad that it started to show on my health. And it started, okay, the nightmares I was already familiar with, but then not only the nightmares, but I started to have really vivid dreams. And the dreams were so vivid that I basically slept through the night, but I was exhausted in the morning. And this exhaustion's just piled up. I was never really able to, um, to rest. Even though when I was at home, or even though when we had weekends, I was never really able to rest properly. And then 3 years ago, it was it started to show that every confrontation that I had with my boss, my skin started burning. My first it was my cheeks, and then it was my eyes, and then the heat only transported from my face to the back of the neck and the back of the head, and it was burning so hard by the end of that period that I was drinking so much water and I was going to the bathroom, like, let's say, every hour, just because I needed to pour cold water on my face just to function properly, to dull the heat a little bit. And then if that wasn't hard enough, I started to have difficulty breathing. It was not COVID. I went through COVID quite without problems, but I had started to develop this difficulty breathing. I couldn't inhale all of the air that I was capable before, and the swallowing became an issue too. And after that, um, my fingers started to get swollen really, really badly. It was so bad that in the morning when I woke up, the only thing that I could do was like this. I couldn't make a fist. I couldn't pull off my wedding ring. It was so bad that I had to oil my finger with olive oil, and I had to pull it off, and it left marks. They were so swollen, and my ring finger was even more swollen because of the ring that I had on. And this didn't only happen with my fingers, it also happened with my toes. So I was, by the end, I couldn't wear any of my shoes. So it was really uncomfortable to, have all of those shoes, and I couldn't wear any of them because they were too tight. Even the sneakers were too tight, and I had to unlace them to just fit them on my leg. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, I started with a really, really severe diarrhea problem. It was so bad that I had to go to the doctor's office to get IV because I was dehydrated. And the same time that I had diarrhea, I had an eye infection. And an eye infection was so bad that I was sitting on the toilet and I was crying from one eye because it was partially shut and I couldn't see anything on it, and it was tearing up all of the time. So I was basically in and out of the doctor's office every week. And then after the eye infection, I woke up one morning. It was a week later, I think. I couldn't see anything, and my husband came to wake me because I hit the snooze button one too many times, and he just stared at me and he said, "Did you see your face?" And I said, "Nope, I can't see anything." And I managed to get to the bathroom, and I managed to open my eyes, and my face was like a watermelon. It was swollen so hard that I couldn't open my eyes. And then there were the chest pains. And the chest pains I will get back later. So all of those medical conditions, they were going on from, let's say, the beginning of the year to, let's say, May, when I was admitted to the hospital because I had severe pains behind my knee, and my doctor said that I have to go to the emergency room because this could signal a heart attack. And when I came home that day, my husband sat me down. He said, "You have to do something with your work." And I was like, "Why? What does work have to do with it?" I was completely ignorant that this could be stress. And he said, "I do not want our children to visit their mommy in a hospital and that she won't recognize them." And that really hit me hard because if there is a limit, I won't cross it when it comes to my children because, mama bear. So everything turned out really quickly after that. I paid for the shrink. I paid for my therapies. I was visiting my therapist once a week, and it was basically, she was basically helping me to see that all of my medical conditions, where the cause was hiding was my work. It turned out that I finally realized after about 2 months in therapy, going each week, that the work was the problem. And me and my therapist said that I needed time off work, and that won't be just enough for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It should be longer because otherwise my body is going to fail me. And she prescribed a 2-month period of rest, which I did, but it was not enough. For the first 2 weeks I slept. I didn't know. I woke up at 12 o'clock at noon, and I went to bed at 8, and I woke up the next day at 9 o'clock. It was incredible. I slept for 2 weeks. But after that, my body started to adjust to the peaceful rhythm of not going to work, of forgetting of the hazard of work and the problems that we had at work. And then there was a notice in my mailbox that I had to go to work after 2 months. And everything came crashing down. I got to work. It was Monday. I remember it like it was yesterday. I got to work. I got to work an hour before everybody else did. And I went to the bathroom, and I closed the lid of the toilet, and I sat on the lid. I locked the door, and I could hear my heart pumping. I could hear it in my ears, Everything was like supercharged. I noticed everything. I could see my fingers getting swollen. I could hear all of the people walking, past the bathroom. I could, the most vivid memory that I have is my heartbeat in my ears and not being able to breathe properly. And as I later found out, I had a panic attack. And after that, me and my former boss, who was now my boss's boss, sat down and we made a plan. And she told me that I need a serious reset from work. She didn't know what the problem was. I never spoke with anybody about that. And I went on sick leave, and I was on sick leave so 2 months before, I was 2 days at work, and then for another half a year, so 6 months. And in those 6 months, I've decided that I not decided, but I was journaling every day, and I was journaling so much that there were, I think, at least 3 notebooks, look, A4 notebooks, filled with my thoughts, with my discoveries, with everything, every thought that I had was written down in those journals. And I was writing for 2-3 hours a day of the journaling, just the journaling, to get my head back where it was. Because you have to know something. Before, my character was like sunshine, I was smiling all the time. I still am. But when I got to my therapist, she told me the sunshines, the ones that are like sunshines, they are the first to burn up because they're hiding their problems behind their smile, and everybody thinks that everything is okay. So if you found any of what I said similar to what you are experiencing, maybe it is time for you to journal as well, for you to take a deep, deep look at your work experience. And I would invite you to write it down in the comments, because I found out later that I was only the first to be on such a long sick leave because of my body giving up on me. 3 more people went on the same sick leave, a month, a second month, and a month after that, after me. If you don't know what you're looking for when you are at work, here are some of my issues that I had. First one was that I didn't dare make any decisions. Why? Because every decision was put under a microscope that I made. So by, I don't know, year 5, working under this boss of mine, I didn't dare make any decisions. So I asked her for everything. I needed her approval for everything. That was why I looked incompetent. But when I did ask, it was always, rolling of the eyes. Oh, she's asking me again. She can't make anything. She can make up her own mind. So I was always, there were 2 sides. If I asked, there was always, you can't make up anything. You can't decide on anything. And if I decided on something, why didn't you ask me beforehand? So you could never get it right. I could never win. So this is something to keep in mind if you will be journaling about your situation at work. What else happened? I seemed incompetent to others, and they started to act like it toward me. So they didn't give me any additional assignments. I was very good at projects, but none of the projects came through my doorstep. Why? Because I was incompetent, because my boss showed everybody that I could make up my own mind. And if I did ask questions beside her, if I called somebody and asked questions and she overheard it, I had an earful. And the most toxic thing that I experienced in my workplace, it was not, the decisions, it was not the looks, it was not the, again, really, you're asking me again? It was the complete trust that I had in my boss, that she is overworked and that I have to help her, and that she is acting like that because she's overworked. And it never even crossed my mind that I was not the problem. Never, ever. I was always, I have to do more, I have to do more, I have to do more. So I worked late. I came early. I was working I had so many overtime that I didn't know what to do with, and my family life suffered, and there were no improvements at my work. So it was a vicious circle that I couldn't get out of, and my body decided to do it for me. And afterwards, when I did my journaling for 6 months, I lifted the veil from my eyes, and it was incredible. And after, it was a month before I had to go back to work, and I was shaking. I was trembling, I was shaking, I had the flu again, and it was only because I didn't want to go back into that office and back to that person as being my boss. So my boss's boss called me, my former boss, who was my mother, let's say, like my mother at least, and she came up with the idea that I would do something entirely different, and it would be really a blow to my ego because I would be doing some of the analyzing. Before I was, making deals, and I was basically right hand to the purchasing department, and now I would be very, very, very low analyst, and I would be, I don't know, inserting some of the data into the system. But this job came with two things that made me jump at the opportunity. First, I would have my own office, and second, I would basically be my own boss. I would dictate what has to be done, what are the priorities, and I would be able to improve that work. And that was enough for me. It completely changed my working experience. I am working my butt off because I have to so much work, but I am enjoying it, to be honest, because now I get to choose who I am having coffee with. I get to choose when I work. I get to choose when I rest. I get to choose when I walk around the office and stretch my limbs, and stretch my sore neck because I'm looking at the screen all day. And I have also noticed that since I have worked out the issues with my coworker, or my boss, let's say, I have noticed that I have stopped overeating. I don't have as many cravings, and I don't have as many. I don't need to fast as often as I did before, because I am managing to stay my normal weight for the past year that I have this new job. And also, I have seen that there are still stressful times. Of course, there are. I mean, this is work. But when I come home, I have the ability to shut it off. I have the ability to get up and get off work when I have completed my 8 hours. And when I am home, I am completely present. My mind is not on the work, on the tasks, and my mind is not, scrolling around. What did I do wrong? Is this okay? Is this not okay? Will this be a problem when I come home? When I come to work tomorrow? So it is a really, really decidedly more peaceful experience of work. So if you have the same experience, if you have the physical signals that your body is telling you that something is wrong. Now, as I told you before, my stress influenced my sleep. I had nightmares. I had burning sensation all over my skin, even after, not only at work, but then through all of the day, and even when I went to bed. And I started to meditate, and I started to, do all of the things, yoga, meditation, taking long walks. Nothing helped. So I started to wake up screaming at night because of the nightmares, and my husband literally had to calm me down so I could lay back down because of the all of the events that my mind was processing through my nightmares. And I still woke up exhausted every morning because of the dreams that I had each night. I would just like to tell you this. When you start thinking about and noticing about the subtle, hints that this is work-related stress, I advise a couple of things that you could do to lessen your stress at the workplace. First of all, talk to the person. I spoke with my boss for 5 times, let's say. But every time that I did, nothing changed. She acknowledged all of my improvements that I could do, but she ruled them out because she always finds something that why this couldn't work. She never tried it. She just decided that this couldn't work. Then, if this doesn't work, talk to the people around it. Talk to your coworkers. Talk to the people who you regularly meet, on the halls, in the halls, or the people who know you both. And if this doesn't help, I highly, highly recommend taking some time off. Now, it took me 2 weeks just to rest. How long it's going to take you, it depends. It depends on how long you have been subjected to stress, how you are denying that it is stress, and all of the other things that you are doing to bring the stress down. So, like I said, meditation, yoga, long walks, and keeping a journal, all of those things, I think that helped to that degree that I didn't just, burn out one day and sit on the bed and just didn't register anything, because this did happen to my best friend, and she woke up one morning at 8 o'clock, and when she sat on the bed, and when she looked at the clock again, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and she lost all of the 8 hours. She doesn't know what she was doing then. So I didn't want that to happen to me. So take some time off, if possible, months. If not, then at least a couple of weeks that you will not be thinking about work at all. And another thing that I suggest you to do is keep a journal and start writing everything that comes to your mind. My worst problem was that I felt guilty over everything. I felt guilty that I was stayed at work for too long. I felt guilty that I didn't do all of the things that I should do at work. I felt guilty that I didn't spend too much time or as much time as I wanted with my kids. I felt guilty that I didn't cook lunch as often as I could. I felt guilty now about everything. And my first task when I got the journal and I was with my therapist, my first task was, she said, write everything that you think that you feel guilty about. And it took me 3 pages of, just bullet points. I feel this and this and this and this and this. And the next session that we had, why? And I was going over the whys for the next couple of months. So keeping a journal, just, for your thoughts, and maybe when you exhaust your thoughts, your surface thoughts, maybe you will be able to dig a little deeper. Why about this? Why this? Why this? And there is this method. It's called a Toyota method. It is from a founder, Toyota founder, who was never really satisfied with production, and everything that was impossible to fix, he always asked the 5 questions, and it was why, and he got an answer, and he said why again, and why again, and why again, until he got to the main problem. So this is something that I have been journaling about as well, but not at the beginning. At the beginning, all I did was just write my thoughts, and I tried to get deeper with the thoughts. And it was enough to occupy me for about 2 hours a day. So yeah, I really took journaling seriously. And if that doesn't work, there are two more possibilities that you could take. First of all, speak with your supervisor, or if this is your boss, your boss's boss, and see if you could get a transfer. If you can go to a different department, if you could get a different assignment, something to get away from the toxic person that you are with in the office or in your environment. And the very last resort is to look for another employment. I did try that, but I tried it before I went on my first 2 months of sick leave. And I was trying to brush up my CV, and I just broke down and cried for half an hour at my first sentence because I didn't have any any optimism. I am worthless. I don't know anything. I have no knowledge. I have no skills. It was incredible. So to look for a different job, my personal experience was that I needed to get my head straight before I started to looking for another job, because it would only repeat itself and I wouldn't do anything. So yeah, now I am at the point where I could start looking for another job, because I am confident enough in my abilities, in my skills, in my knowledge, that I could go looking for another job. But the problem is that I still find the meaningless job that I'm doing now peaceful. And I still, after 3 years, or let's say 2 years since I kind of came back to work, I still value peace and quiet in my office, and the monotony, I think it's called, of my work. I value it more than challenges, projects, or even higher pay. So you will have to think about what you need, not what you want, what you need. But first of all, I would journal. Journal about everything, about your life. Journal about what happened that day, and journal like nobody is going to read these pages ever. Put everything out. Your feelings, your emotions, your frustrations, your fears, everything. Just put everything in your journal, and it will get easier over time. So I think that this was enough for today. I hope I hope that this was helpful. But this was my experience, and this is something that I feel deeply about, and this is something that I would really like to help other people with as well. However, I am still on a journey of recovery, mental recovery myself, to get my worth back up. And this is a process. It is basically a marathon. It is not a sprint. And everything that happens that needs to heal in the brain takes time. So be kind to yourself and don't rush things. That's it. Escaping a toxic work environment isn't easy, but your health, happiness, and confidence are worth fighting for. My 10-year journey proves that you don't have to let a toxic boss or coworker define your life. Now, if this story resonates with you, share this video with someone who might need it. Remember, you deserve a job that builds you up, not one that tears you down. And if you'd like to know more about how I cope with my stress in the workplace and how I have my secret days off, this video is the next for you to watch.